I said that before. See, the global crisis, financial and economic crisis, as I said, happened to be unprecedented in history. Every country in the world is affected. Global capital flows have frozen. Credit lines have virtually dried up to our banks. Trade lines have virtually dried up. There is liquidity crunch across the world. Our banks are not insulated from these global shocks, from this global liquidity crunch, and so on and so forth. Literally every banking system is facing liquidity challenges everywhere in the world. They're also facing capital challenges, depletion of capital. But the point to be made is that given what we have, it's not a question of whether the banks will be affected. It is a question of whether they can survive it.
Right.
And then I think that perspective is very important. You can't have a hurricane going around. I mean, if you have a stronger building with a stronger foundation, you may be able to weather through, in the sense that it might blow off your rooftop, but you still have a house. Or your BQ gets ruffled a little bit, but you will stand nevertheless. But there are places all over the world today, their banks are collapsing on a daily basis, and so on. But I also want to put in context about the banking system. Namely that, thank God, we had the consolidation of our banks the time that we did. And to a point that today, the difference between then and now, the difference between pre-consolidation and today, is such that with every sense of modesty, if we were not successful in consolidating our banks as at the time we did, today, under the kind of shock unprecedented in the world today, that even the most advanced economies are crumbling and our banks are still standing, I'm not sure if there will be any bank today. And I give you one or two illustrations. If you look in terms of, confidence, with all the barrage of attacks and attempts to pull down the system itself, the confidence in the system by the ordinary man, the ordinary men and women of Nigeria still remains high. We used to have less than 30 million deposits in the banking system before consolidation. Today you have about 30 million depositors there. We used to have total credit to the banking, to the private sector, only 1.2 trillion, to 1.19 trillion before that, to the entire economy, private sector. Today we'll have about 7.8 trillion as at this January. Indeed, the banking system credit to the economy, financing the economy, is bigger than the totality of federal government expenditure. Is the system today that when all the states are going to be running deficits at about 800 and something billion, the federal government is going to be running deficits. Who is going to finance all of this? It is our banking system. Who is going to be financing the private sector to get out of this crisis? It is the banking system. The deposit in the system, all-time high. You see, till today, post-consolidation, and in spite of the global crisis, not a single bank in Nigeria has gone out of clearing, unlike what you used to have then. The point I'm making is not to say that, oh, it's all rosy, it's all... there are challenges, obviously. Everybody is facing the shock, but our banks are much, much better prepared to ride through this wave than would have happened otherwise, and better prepared than many other banking systems around the world. And that's why many central banks are sending their people to us here to come and study what we have done and the successes. And many of them are also doing what we have actually done.
All right. So I suppose it would be academic to ask you again to say, in the past 4 years, has the consolidation been a worthwhile exercise? You, of course, would say certainly, because it's helping to place Nigerian banks in good stead to weather the storm that's going around. But there are also other aspects. Has the consolidation necessarily translated into better banking practice?
It's a process. Banking practice is a process, and it evolves. And it also evolves consistent with the level of your development, the level of development of your legal infrastructure, the level of development of your credit market, and so on. And it is, I would say, if you compare what was, because it's always important. People, you wake up one morning and you wish Nigeria were to operate like America. You have to take a perspective. Right. You have to take a perspective as to where we're coming from. Where were we before now? And where are we today? In all respects, I must say that we still have a long way to go in getting there. But relative to where we were, the difference is like the difference between day and night. And for example, I mean, and it is because of this we realize that in spite of the huge progress made in getting credit out there to the private sector, today you have literally the size of credit to the manufacturing sector, which stands at about 1 trillion as at end of last year. And last year, credit to the manufacturing sector grew by 94%. Unprecedented. You can name any other country in the world where that has happened. The total credit standing in the balance of the private, manufacturing sector, for example, was about the size of the total before consolidation. Now we're talking about they weren't there in the oil and gas, they were not there in any other sector. SME, financing of small and medium enterprises, has gone up by more than 600%. And so on. But we would want to get to a point where every household will be able to get access to credit. We want to get to a point where the artisan, the man in the street, everybody will be able to get access to credit, perhaps even a lower single digit interest rate, and so on and so forth. That's our aspiration. We are not yet there. But given where we are coming from, we've made significant progress, but that's why we've designed the FSS 2020. The Financial System Strategy 2020 is designed to make Nigeria Africa's financial hub by the year 2020. And we have about 400 initiatives under this program to develop the mortgage market, to develop the consumer credit, to develop the whole credit infrastructure. Today, Cyril, even in spite of your popularity, every Nigerian knows you. But if you walk into a bank to get a loan, except they have to know you personally to give you credit. It doesn't work like that elsewhere. We don't have yet the national identification system. So another person could actually answer Cyril Stober tomorrow and have 3 passports or whatever thing and claim, and for the person you are giving the loan, it could be, tomorrow he could disappear to Cameroon. You have no way of tracing him. And so on. So we still have quite a long way to go in developing the credit infrastructure. But again, I like to put things in perspective to say, where were we before now? And it is, we have leapfrogged. Okay. We have been able to fast track. As South Africa said, Nigeria achieved in the banking system what it took them more than 2 decades to achieve. We achieved in 3-4 years. And that's what consolidation brought about. Of course, I mean, there are people who hold some other views, especially those who lost out in the process. But for the Nigerian economy, I look at the big picture, the big Nigerian economy, those big ticket items that are now being financed that couldn't otherwise. The fact that credit to private sector has grown from 1 trillion to almost 8 trillion today. That's what matters.
Has it showed up the confidence of the ordinary banking public?